Welcome to another mailbag session. Remember, these are questions and comments you guys leave on the channel. But before we get going on this session, remember, normal parish notices apply. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not? Hit the subscribe icon. If you want to be notified when new content hits the channel, it's the bell icon's the one you need. If you like the contents of this video, give it a thumbs up. Consider becoming a member of the TMTG community. It's always a big mouthful. The address is down the bottom, as are the Facebook and Instagram tags. Go tag me over there. But now back to the video. Okay, next one from Nico V. In response to the Pedals Away video I did in March 2016. This video has had so many views. I didn't think that pedals for keyboards would actually generate so much interest, but it has. And he says, you did a video on switching the Polarity on a DP6. Could you do one on a DP10? I just bought one, and of course the sustain is reversed on my synth. I could, but I'm not going to modify. In essence, I've got the DP-10. Actually, the DP-10 is actually down there, funnily enough, because I've been using it with this keyboard. The DP-10 and the DP6 and the DP5 are really good pedals, quite universal as well. That's one of the things I found about them. And what I would say to people who are going to have a range of synthesizers is, it's probably not a bad idea to go and buy yourself a DP5 or a DP6 and have that somewhere, because you will buy synthesizers that they will fit. Now, the thing about the DP5 to the DP6 and 7 is the design of the actual connector. The DP5 have a tip and sleeve style connector, which is two wires effectively, and the DP10 has a tip, ring, and sleeve style connection, which is 3 wires. And the reason that's done is because of the fact that the DP10 is designed to be used as a damper, rather than just a simple on-off switch, which is what many of the others are. But if you open up the DP10, and I will do a video about this, and look at the circuitry, effectively you've got a positive and a negative wire coming in, which are effectively the tip and the sleeve, and you just need to swap them across. And I've looked at the circuitry, and it does look pretty simple. I have to be honest and say I'm not sure about the variable potentiometer, because there is, obviously, if you're going to use it to damp, you need to know how much. I'm not sure whether that will cope with a reversal, but definitely the tip and the sleeve, and there is a switch on the side of the DP10 to actually put it into just on-off mode, so you can. But my advice is, go and buy yourself a DP5 or a DP6. They're not expensive on eBay, but you will thank me for saying that. Next one comes from Tush Hamilton. I've just caught my toe. This is in response to the SY85 Part 5 disc drive replacement video I did in June 2020. And he writes, "Hi John, before plumping for a new disc drive, I ordered a new drive belt, but unfortunately I still get the disc not ready. Message on screen, so I'm in exactly the same position as you were at the end of video 3. When you ordered the replacement drive on eBay, do you actually have to specify that the drive needs to be modified, or does the supplier automatically know the drive has to be modified and supplies the drive ready to install? I was thinking of taking the drive out and taking it around to the computer component stores here in Malaga, where I live, but I fear it will be impossible to find a compatible drive. The problem with the US supplier is that they say it could take until the end of September for them to deliver. Are there any European or UK or European suppliers that supply the same drive? If you recommend the US supplier, I'll go for that, but that's my main concern for the modification and having to specify what's required." Now, first thing I would say about this particular, again, this was done several weeks ago. I know Tush, so I'm recording this at the 9th of September. And I know that he has already received his drive. So drive from the US is actually not taking as long as it was. The guy who was sending the drives from the US was basically quoting because of COVID-19. So firstly, I considered fixing the original disk drive that was in the machine. I thought about taking it to pieces, getting the oscilloscope out, getting the testers out, and going through and finding out where the problems were. And then I looked at how much it would cost to get the drive from the US and decided that actually it was less aggro to get it from the US. So that was kind of my logic there. I like suggested in there, I replaced the belt first, didn't work. Got a new drive, direct drive, no belts involved. Works like a dream, plug and play. The guy I bought it from in the US did all the modification work for me. So literally when I arrived, it was plug and play. And I will put a link to the guy in the US down below, although last time I looked he was saying that he was running low on stock, so whether he's going to get any more stock I don't know. Maybe I should be on commission from him, because I've been sending you loads of people to him in Nevada to get their drives for the SY85, which is what I said in another video, mailbag video. I'm quite surprised how many people have an SY85, love this synth, but had the same problem, that the disk drive was knackered. Basically, I looked at several places in Europe, and I can get the drive in several places in Europe and the UK. But what I couldn't get confirmation on, and nobody was willing to sort of confirm, is whether they would do the modifications for the SY85 first. This guy in Nevada just does it, okay? It comes pre-configured, ready to rock and roll. And the reason I'm reading this out is because that is exactly Tush's experience, because I've had conversation with him since this particular mailbag item, and he has his new drive, put it in, worked first time, job done. The other thing is, typically now you want to be plumping for a Sony or an NEC drive, because they seem to be the better made drives for this sort of purpose. So the original, I can't remember what it was, is Masui or something like that drive that was in these machines, was always considered the Achilles heel. Get rid of it and get a new Sony or NEC drive in. Believe you me, you'll thank me for saying that. Next one from Rob A, in response to the Korg T1 demo songs that I did and actually re-recorded recently for various reasons. But the original one was done in September 2017. A long time. I can remember doing that, actually. It doesn't seem that long ago. Anyway, he writes, I purchased one back in the 80s from a friend's music shop after working all summer to save up the $3,700 plus US. He had no idea a semi-truck would arrive for delivery, and asked me for an extra $50 to cover shipping. A big deal in those days. The T1 has been with me ever since and still plays like a dream. Many patches, including sax sounds, still hold up well by modern standards. I always found the factory demos intimidating. Very talented programmers at Korg, but hardly a roadie's friend. It's a beast. Thanks for the post, John. Yeah. So I've never said the T1 was a small beast, and it has been here. And I've had one of the housemates help me get it out of the box and put it back in the box, because it is a massive keyboard and very heavy. It's not as heavy as the A80, but it is a heavy keyboard, and because of the size, the case it goes in is big as well. Dear. Anyway, I think I've said before on the channel that Roland and some high-end Yamaha equipment was the place to go. Was a place called Project Music, but they didn't tend to cater for Korg. Now, if you wanted to play Korg equipment back in the day, you ended up at a place in Denmark Street in London, and that was called Rose Morris, and it's still there in Denmark Street. However, it's not the Rose Morris that used to be there in the 80s and 90s. They've really sort of stripped the shop down, and there was if you wanted high-end keyboards, Rose Morris was the place to go, because it had all the high-end, the top-of-the-range stuff Rose Morris used to carry in demonstration. So I can remember going there to play the 99, the SY99. I can remember going there. I actually played this in Rose Morris at some point when it was originally launched in 2005. I played the T1 in Rose Morris. I played M1s in Rose Morris. I played Kurzweils in Rose Morris. They had all that high-end machine over 2 floors, and you kind of went to one floor and it was kind of all Korg and something else, and the next floor was Yamaha and Roland, but it was all high-end stuff. And that was where I first played the T1. I sat there for about an hour playing this keyboard. Then this sales guy came across to me and sidled over and said, "Well, what do you think?" And he had one of those sort of high posh accents, which I can't do. But you know, this sort of you probably know the type of person I'm. You know, completely up his own bottom. So I sat there, man sidles over, "What do you think?" To which I responded, I think, with one word, and went, "Wow." And then he tried to sell me the keyboard at 3,800 plus delivery. I do remember that bit. And I knew 3,800 was over the top for the keyboard anyway. It was about £3,500 everywhere else. But he was so adamant that, you know, you were buying it from Rose Morris, and Rose Morris was the best place in the world to buy it. Unfortunately, Rose Morris now is not the shop it was. So they kind of cater. There's no upper floors. The last time I went there was probably 10 years ago, if I'm honest, because I then started going to Anderton's in Guildford, and Anderton's in Guildford carries most of the sort of the decent stuff that you would think about buying nowadays. But you know, Rose Morris is kind of high-end pianos now. It's, you know, they don't carry sort of the high-end workstation type stuff. Shame, but that's their business model. The other thing I've said about is, you know, I was really rapt when I picked my T1 up. The guy who sold it to me in Bournemouth, you know, admitted to me it needed a lot of TLC. I kind of get the impression that when he saw what I did with it, he was a bit miffed because I put it back to working order. And he's a subscriber to the channel, so it was a nice keyboard. It was a nice project to put back together. It took me weeks and weeks, but I did put it together. Anyway, I took the T1 over to a friend's house to do some jamming one evening, and he was quite surprised how I actually managed to get it from the storage location into my car and actually to his place, because when we got to his place, 2 of us left it out. But the other thing I think about the T1 is, and I do agree with what you're saying, that many of the patches on the T1 still hold muster. I have to be honest and say I've built up a massive sound library. I think I'm currently sort of circa 100 separate discs for the sound library of the T1 now. Some of the sounds are rubbish. Other discs really have some utterly brilliant sounds on them. But, you know, I do like playing my T1. I love to play my T1. It's the reason why it sat in my lounge for so long, because I love playing it. It's just that I kind of like playing this one better. But I will get the T1 will make a reappearance before too long here. So I've got a load of questions to answer on it. So I probably need to go and get it out of storage and just run those through to make sure I'm not talking rubbish.